Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. So I debated making this video for quite a while because it is a political video in a way, um, but we're going to do it anyway. And if this video goes sideways, I probably won't touch politics with a 10-foot pole ever again. But this is talking about Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin will not seek re-election in West Virginia. The reason that this is important or could possibly be important to us is I'm told by the person that's in charge of the lobbying efforts for Aptera that Joe Manchin personally drew a line across the part that would allow Aptera to have the federal tax credit in the Inflation Reduction Act. There was a line in there that would allow three-wheeled vehicles to also qualify, and Joe Manchin put a red line through that and wanted that out before he would sign it. And so, according to the person who's in charge of lobbying for Aptera, Joe Manchin is personally responsible for not having Aptera qualify for the federal tax rebate as other vehicles do under the Inflation Reduction Act. And he is not seeking re-election. So they're hoping that this is a good sign for Aptera and that perhaps we can get it through in the next congressional cycle. Now, I don't know if that's true because it's very likely. So if you guys don't know, Joe Manchin was a very centrist Democrat from a very red state, West Virginia. So it's very, very likely that West Virginia, the next senator from West Virginia, is going to be a Republican. And unfortunately, it's been kind of a Republican talking point to be anti-EV. So it's pretty unlikely that whoever replaces Joe Manchin will be more favorable to Aptera than Joe Manchin was. And he was obviously a little bit hostile to Aptera, maybe not on purpose, but inadvertently he was hostile to it. The current Democratic candidate for to fill West Virginia's Senate seat on Joe Manchin's when he vacates it is this guy named Zach Shrewsbury, and he is been labeled a socialist by many people. So that's that's fairly non-centrist, and so in a very red state like West Virginia, I find it very unlikely that he's gonna win. So we'll see. If he wins, then maybe it will be better for Aptera. I'm not sure. But then that led me to this article, and in this article they talk about how Joe Manchin said, use the same type of approach when you have politicians that come and ask for support. Joe Manchin advised a room full of fossil fuel executives last year that you do when you make a financial decision for yourself and your family. You want a return on your investment. And that's interesting because this article, it says that he accepted $1.4 million worth of campaign contributions from the oil and gas industry. So I checked that out and I went into this kind of a deep dive. This was a very interesting website called Open Secrets that basically talks about who's donating money to whom. And if you look at this, this is through in the last 15 years. What groups have supported Joe Manchin? If you look at this, the highest group is securities and investment, then lawyers and law firms. I don't know what retired means. Real estate, and then oil and gas at $1.4 million here. But if you look at oil and gas in the 2022 cycle, you look for the top 20 members that they funded by the oil and gas. Number one is Joe Manchin. So the oil and gas industry funded Joe Manchin to the tune of $800,000 in the 2022 election cycle. And that's probably because Joe Manchin was a critical vote in the Senate. Like without Joe Manchin, Joe Manchin was like the swing vote. He could go either way. So they understood that he was the most important vote. Like pretty much the other people, you knew which way they were going to vote on like these oil and gas type issues. If you look at this, it's the vast majority of oil and gas money goes to Republicans, which is would make sense. There are a few Democrats. Most of them are from oil producing states. So Texas, and Arizona, Kristen Sinema. So Kristen Sinema is also was a centrist type Democrat. She's now an independent, and unclear if she is going to win the next election cycle. Arizona Senate race is going to be a little interesting. But what I went down and went through this website, and I thought it was interesting to see what are the industry sectors that donate the most money to political action committees. So in the 22 election cycle, number one is the finance, insurance, and real estate. And then number two is, quote, other. Number three is ideology, single issue. And then you see like energy and natural resources, number nine here. And so I wanted to find out, like, what is this finance, insurance, and industry? So if you look at this is the finance, and this is pretty interesting. So this is George Soros's group, and George Soros is a very well-known liberal Democrat donor, and you can see he invested $180 million into these political action committees and such. That's a quite a staggering amount of money. Number two is FTX. That is the defunct cryptocurrency exchange. Sam Bankman-Fried, I think, is going to jail for fraud. They were donating kind of to both sides, but mostly to the Democrats. Citadel is another bank, mostly to Republicans. Susquehanna, mostly to Republicans. Bloomberg, mostly Democrats. Obviously, this is Michael Bloomberg Group. Blackstone Group, donating to both, but mostly to Republicans. Blackstone Group is known. They are the founder of ESG investing. So ESG investing started with Blackstone, which is kind of surprising that you would expect someone that donates mostly to Republican causes. ESG is something that Republicans are not super interested in. Thiel Capital, that's Peter Thiel. He's a very well-known conservative political backer. And then the usual banks, Charles Schwab, Bain Capital, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the group that funds most is the most interested in funding political campaigns, which tells you the kind of the stranglehold the finance industry has on the political system in the United States. Then if you look at ideology, single issue, the two biggest are basically political action committees of Democrats and Republicans. You see they're very evenly matched in terms of how much funding there is. There's a Congressional Leadership Fund. That's a conservative group. League of Conservation Voters. That is an environmental group. They tend to be mostly Democrat. Then the Chamber of Commerce, mostly Republican. America Votes, mostly Democrat. And then there's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. This obviously is a group that supports Israeli interests, and you can see they are funding both sides, and then other political action committees. And then if you look at other, there's this Simon Youth Foundation, and I have no idea who they are. Let's look them up. Okay, so they're looking for educational things. The Marcus Foundation, so this is a conservative group, obviously. And what do they do? Okay. According to this, they're doing sustainability and community food resources. That's interesting. So I've never heard of the Simon Group or this Marcus Foundation. And I don't know if this Marcus Foundation is the foundation we're talking about. But it's interesting. It's like University of California is donating a lot of money to political things, which is surprising because this is a public university. And I'm surprised that they're donating so much to political campaigns. Anyways, this Open Secrets website, I spent like an hour or so just kind of going through here, and it was pretty interesting to see who's funded by what and what industries fund who, and helps you understand a lot of things. Anyways, I guess the thing is, Manchin understood that he was not going to get elected, so he is evidently mulling a third-party run for presidency, and there's a group that's trying to draft Romney and Manchin together to be kind of a centrist ticket. I mean, I don't think it's going to fly. Third-party candidates have never succeeded in recent history, and they're just going to end up being spoilers for the actual election. So I think that's probably a bad idea. I don't think they're going to get much done by doing that. I mean, I personally think a centrist party would be good. I think America has gotten so divided, and we're run by. I think we're a country of people in the middle that are run by a bunch of people on both sides of the spectrum. So our leadership is really, really fragmented, and I think most people are kind of in the middle and just want government to function and do what's right, instead of pushing like ideological agendas that are on both ends of the spectrum. But anyways, Aptera thinks that the person who's leading the lobbying efforts believes that Joe Manchin not heading for re-election might be good for Aptera. I actually don't think so. I think his replacement is going to be even more hostile to EVs than he was, and I don't expect like great changes in the tax credits for EVs to favor Aptera anytime soon. Um, you know, Curtis, one of our members, and he's very active on Discord, has mentioned that he thinks that taxing internal combustion vehicles rather than specifically targeting certain EVs would be a better way to handle things. And I totally agree with him. I think that's a better way of handling it, because then you don't pick winners amongst the EV crowd, and it won't penalize Aptera the way it's done now, where you have to meet certain criteria and certain EVs get credit and certain EVs don't. It just makes it complicated, and it hurts the EVs that don't qualify. And if your goal is to transition to an EV transportation scheme, then you should just equally help all EVs. And one of the best ways to do that would be to just tax a little bit more all the internal combustion vehicles and make them a little bit less financially attractive for everyone. But that kind of stuff will never fly, because people are always against new taxes, and people like getting credits for buying things. So that I think it's a simple solution that makes logical sense, but just doesn't work in the political climate. Okay, so tell me what you guys think about this thing. Do you think that this is going to be better for Aptera? I personally don't think so, but if you guys think differently, let me know in the comments below and tell me why you think that. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.